Welcome everyone to another episode of the Will and Rock MMA podcast.
What's going on, my people? We have a double header for you guys today. Yep. We're going to be talking about UFC on Fox 30, the results that happened last week, and we're going to be talking about UFC 227, which is happening this week. Breaking fucking news, people. Conor McGregor versus Khabib, October 26th in the T-Mobile Arena in Las Vegas.
October 6th.
October 6th,
yeah,
my bad.
October 6th in the T-Mobile Arena in Las
Vegas.
Vegas. Yeah. Let's talk about how important this fight is for MMA. We're talking about the biggest moneymaker in MMA history, which is Conor McGregor. And we're talking about one of the most, I wouldn't say underrated, because I don't think he's obviously not in the caliber that Conor McGregor is here in the States, because he definitely is in Russia. But the biggest competition for Conor McGregor besides Jose Aldo, right? Could we agree on that?
Oh, absolutely. Without a doubt. We're talking about the champion right now.
And we're talking about a guy, Khabib, that is undefeated going into this fight and has completely dominated the whole featherweight division, right? We also have to take in mind that Khabib fought against Iaquinta and did not give his best performance, keeping in mind that it was like the same day of the fight he found out who he was fighting.
For both fighters.
For both fighters, both Iaquinta and Khabib. But the importance of this fight, it's going to be the biggest fight in UFC history, if you ask me, number-wise, because Conor McGregor is back, right? But what people are overshadowing is they overshadowing Khabib Nurmagomedov. He's been putting work since he got into the UFC and is currently undefeated.
The reason why I'm going to go against you is because the odds comes out and Khabib is favored to win this fight. So that is completely false.
No, I'm not talking about as experts talking about who it's the bet's going to be, the odds are going to be the best. I'm talking about just people in general. I don't think people know who Khabib is. People
in general are betting for Khabib. So that's false information. So right now, as we speak, the odds came out, not from professionals and who they're predicting to win. We're talking about people and betting odds that started already. And the betting odds starting already...
Maybe I'm confusing it with like...
No, it's fine. I mean, it makes sense what you're saying because that's what it almost seems like. But people have fallen into knowing who the hell Khabib is. And that's the great thing about it.
Right.
This is a lightweight belt that's on the line. And this is the biggest fight in UFC history. Biggest UFC fight in UFC history because Conor has been out for so long. There's been so much shit that went on, that the craziness that he pulled in Brooklyn. And now he's finally back. Somebody who brings the energy, knows how to put people in their seat. The UFC benefits tremendous off him. And once again, they're going to give him a ton of millions of dollars. And hopefully Khabib goes out there and shows it. Stylistically, this fight just makes no sense. Sorry. This fight makes no sense for Conor McGregor.
It doesn't. But this is why Conor McGregor is perfect for that position. Because he's the type of guy that shows, he's going to talk it, but he's also going to show it to you in the octagon. And I feel like putting a guy that is so dominant like Khabib Nurmagomedov with his wrestling and putting a guy like Conor McGregor who's tremendous with his hands. I mean, we saw what he did to Eddie Alvarez, how he starched fucking Jose Aldo. You start to think, ooh, is what happened with what Chad Mendes did to Conor McGregor, that fight, is that going to happen again?
Or is what Nate Diaz did to Conor McGregor going to happen again? So this is why the odds are against it, because grinding them out, pushing them to the later rounds. Unfortunately, Conor hasn't showed much tank in his fights. That's the biggest things. That's the biggest questions for Conor. I don't want to spend all day on this because we could spend all day on this.
Sure.
Something that UFC 230 in MSG. We got Nate Diaz versus Dustin Porier, which should not be sugar-coated.
No.
Amazing.
It would have been better if it would have been in the same card, because for any reason
you just throw them
Nate
whoever.
Diaz happens to win and gets on the mic right before Conor gets onto that octagon, it will spark a fucking fire.
But that's fucking phenomenal. But also think about, let's say Porier wins and Khabib win. That's the next fight to make. Conor wins. Nate wins. That's the next fight to make. So now things start to, you start putting two and two together. That makes a lot of sense. Either way, man. UFC 230 in New York City, stacked
with a whole bunch of middleweights.
Totally worth.
And now,
worth every single dime that we might have to spend on that fight.
Yeah,
all right, guys. So let's talk about predictions right now. We got UFC 227 happening. This card is one of those like back and forth cards that we both had discussed before we started filming. It's a great card, but the names are still like names that people are still not household names as of yet. Yeah. First fight. We'll get into the first fight. We have Kevin Holland versus Thiago Santos. Go ahead, Will.
I'm gonna go with the honest truth is I don't know too much about either one of these fighters, but I think Thiago Santos gets it done, first round knockout.
All right, I got Kevin Holland. Feel the same way about it. I'm just going against you. Right. Someone needs to take a shot in this fight. Next fight, JJ Aldrich versus Payana Viana. Who else that guy? Fucking clueless. I actually, to be quite honest with you, I really don't know these two fighters.
Yeah. I'll go for Aldrich.
You go Aldrich, I'll go Viana.
Let's do it.
Rento Massinio versus Cub Swanson.
So Cub Swanson, coming off of a defeat, he needs this win out of like anybody in that card. He needs this win. He hasn't been performing as of late the way that we used to see him fight in the WEC back in the days. He needs this win, and for that reason, there's no in hell I could pick against a guy like Cub Swanson, who's also the bigger name going into this fight.
I would go against you, dude. I'm not doing that to myself. I'm going Cub Swanson on this. I know what he brings to the table. I know his heart, where it's at when he fights. I don't see Cub Swanson winning this, and Cub Swanson needs this more than Renato. That's for sure. Next fight, finally, bro. Demetrius Johnson's back in the motherfucking octagon. Flyweight champion on the line versus Henry Cejudo.
Oh, so Henry Cejudo has tremendous wrestling, as we know. He's a former Olympian. I don't know if I always forget whether he's a gold medalist or silver medalist, but who knows? That there's no bigger arena than the Olympics, right? So just the fact that you made it to the Olympics is big enough. Now let's remember, this is fight number 2 against both of them. They both fought before, and Demetrius Johnson stopped them, if I'm not mistaken, in the second round. Yeah. What we saw Cejudo do in his last fight was tremendous. You know, he beat Sergio Pettis, who, by the way, Sergio Pettis had a tremendous performance before that.
And I had Sergio winning that fight.
And then he starts to look a little better. The question is, do you even compete against a guy like Demetrius Johnson, who's like the best pound for pound fighter in the UFC? I don't know yet. You should pick next.
I mean, this is a no-brainer for me, bro.
I think for both of us, let's be honest. But you want to break it down a little bit?
We're both going to pick Demetrius Johnson. Why? Demetrius Johnson, we both have spoke once again before this podcast. We believe he's the pound-and-pound best fighter in the world. Yeah. Why? Because no one has come close to beating this guy. And that's the thing about Demetrius Johnson. Demetrius Johnson's could beat you in any way, shape, or form.
He's knocked people out. He's submitted people.
He's knocked out Benavidez. He's submitted so many fighters, and his tank goes on for days. Mm-hmm. This is somebody who is by far. If you start thinking about other fighters, who else can you compare him to? It's tough because he brings everything with him when he fights you, and he's the most overall fighter that the UFC has, and to this day he's taking a co-main event. Yet I believe he's the best fighter walking this face of this earth.
I have a comment to make, but we're gonna leave that to the next fight.
I know you're going with this. And last but not least, bantamweight title on the line with champion TJ Dillashaw versus Cody Garbrandt.
Yeah. Okay, so TJ Dillashaw gets knocked down, comes back up, and knocks out Cody Garbrandt to win the champion. Now, what could possibly happen in this fight? We're talking about two tremendous stand-up fighters. Great, they take anybody that's going to take anybody down, they're going to go right back to their feet. I don't see this fight on the ground by any means, unless somebody gets knocked down.
They're too fast for that.
With that being said, I'm starting to see how Cody Garbrandt has been handling the situation, going into this fight, should I say, versus how he handled it last time. And he seems so much more composed than he was last time. Just calm, collected. He just had a son. There's a lot riding for him besides winning this fight. I mean, now he has a family that he has to think about.
Same thing with TJ.
The same thing. Very good point. I was going to get to that. But the way I see Cody Garbrandt come into this fight is a new fighter, right? But the question is, could you stop a guy like TJ Dillashaw, who has the same? He left Alpha Male, went with Dwayne Ludwig. He's been with Dwayne Ludwig now going on 6 years, and he's been showing strides after strides, and I don't see anybody really stopping him right now. He's just on top of his game. The question is, could Cody Garbrandt land a stronger punch than he did the first fight and knock him out this time around? And I'm gonna say that he can. And for that reason, I'm gonna stay. I have a new champion in this before this fight, this card finishes, and I have Cody Garbrandt winning an upset against TJ Dillashaw.
See, I'm gonna go with TJ Dillashaw, not because I feel like TJ Dillashaw could win, or let alone Cody could win, just because I want to go against you. But most importantly, I feel like TJ Dillashaw is way too unpredictable the way he fights. He fights like when Machida first started, like when Stephen Thompson first fought.
Except that he's constantly still doing it.
And he does it at a whole different speed.
Yeah.
You know, granted they're in a different weight class, but this guy is so fast. Now, I will say, man, I'm only doing this because I want to go against you, but there's not enough to be said about Cody. Cody wins this fight. First of all, if people don't know who Cody is, they know him now. The UFC, even though he's taking this loss, they've exposed him a ton to the MMA world. He's now a household name. He's a good-looking guy. Girls are going crazy over this guy. He's going to be one of these guys. He gets a victory. He's going to end up in a magazine. He's going to end up becoming explosive. The UFC needs a fighter with the face and to back up as a fighter into the UFC. So I'm still going TJ because this fight is so unpredictable.
It really is.
So unpredictable. And I believe Dunwick, bro. You train with Bang and you get results. And he's been proving it. And like you said, we every time we see TJ, we see a better version of him. And I don't think it's going to be any different this time around.
I agree with you, man. I agree to disagree.
I got TJ keeping his belt. You have Cody Garbrandt being the new bantamweight champion. It's so unpredictable. It is what it is. All right, let's jump into the next thing. UFC on Fox 30. We talked about this last week. We had Oliver Messier, which is the French-Canadian hometown hero, versus Alexander Hernandez. You picked Alexander Hernandez.
That was one of the fights that we did not know who exactly these fighters were, to us at least. And I just decided to pick Hernandez. Nothing to really take credit for, but I won. You take a shot.
Yeah, I picked Messier. I was familiar with Messier. Messier has been doing a phenomenal job in the UFC. He's more the vet in the fight. He ended up taking the loss in decision. Not happy.
What we have next, Frank? Talk to us.
Next fight, we have Tiasa Torres versus Joanna Willie, you know how to pronounce her name better than I do.
Joanna Jędrzejczyk.
This fight is so interesting. I'm gonna call you out, bro. You're such a dummy to go against fucking Joanna.
Normally I will stomp your face right now, but I have to agree with you, man.
Going against Joanna, it's like fucking going against Anderson Silva at his prime.
The only reason why I picked Ticia Torres is because Joanna Jędrzejczyk is coming off 2 losses versus Rosa Namajunas, and I felt like, man, I don't know what Joanna's coming into that octagon. What I forgot about is how fucking good she is. She overshadows everybody else except Rosa, and that's my biggest mistake. Going against Joanna, I also did the mistake, and she doesn't stop training. She's been training with the same people over and over again. She's been giving us the same results over and over, and technically, she gave the same type of fight that she fought Rosa, or when she fought Rose, should I say, not Rosa, Rose, the same type of fight, and came up short. She fought the same exact way against Tessia, but it's just to show you how good Rose is. And I don't want to overshadow this because Joanna did a tremendous performance. I'm really interested to know whether or not they're going to have Rose fight for the 3rd time, which we already saw 2 of them going the same exact way. But as you break that down, I'm going to go ahead and take the shot.
For being a dummy. I say give Joanna a different fighter. I say give Rose a different fighter. hype this fight up a little more before you throw them into the jungle. I say give it some more time. Give Rose another big fight. Give Joanna another big fight, and then take it from there.
Yeah.
Next fight we have Jose Aldo versus Jeremy Stephens.
I'm gonna leave this right about here.
All right, so I end up picking Jeremy Stephens. Why?
We both did, by the way.
Huh?
We both picked up Jeremy.
We both picked Jeremy Stephens. Why did we pick Jeremy Stephens? We saw how Aldo has been defeated back-to-back times now. We saw when McGregor took his soul. I felt Max Holloway had him contemplating retirement.
That's a very good point. I didn't mean to interrupt you, but who really took his soul, I think, was Max Holloway back-to-back wins. Conor McGregor did destroy his ego, but I think who stole the soul was Max Holloway by beating him up, breaking him down. It wasn't a knockout right away. It was breaking him down. Sorry.
No. All right. So that's your opinion. That's good. And then coming into this fight, he just didn't look like the comfortable Jose Aldo we know. And he let me tell you something. He didn't fight like the comfortable Jose Aldo that we know. Yeah. Even though he was a bit more composed, I feel like there was a time where Jeremy Stephens backed up too early and he could have taken this fight. Yeah. What you don't want to do is give Jose Aldo any time to do what he do. He came out with an unpredictable liver shot that sent Jeremy Stephens down, and I know he was uncomfortable with taking that loss because he felt like he still had more in his tank.
I kind of agree with Jeremy Stephens a little bit.
Yes and no, but shout outs to the ref for stopping the fight when I felt like it was needed to be stopped to save the fighter's health. And at the end of the day, Jose Aldo came out with a big victory. And this only, what it does for Jose Aldo is that it gives him that boost that he needs, gives him a little bit of that ego that he lost to McGregor, and goes back at it. Now is Jose Aldo of the old. Who we put him against him next, you know?
I think what's more impressive about this fight, and I'm gonna make it really short, is that you could start taking a shot, by the way. What makes this fight what the hell was I going to say? Oh, so interesting. It's not so much about Jose Aldo coming back and winning. It's how he won this fight. That body shot is not the easiest shot to give somebody. And even worse than that, the shot to actually knock out Jeremy Stephens, which made it so much better, not just for the spectators watching the fight, but for Jose Aldo's legacy. So I'm interested to see who they're going to put in that octagon again. I don't think it's Max Holloway. But I like what I saw with Jose Aldo, and I'm looking forward to seeing him fight again.
Real quick
and
thing.
I'm sorry for doubting you.
I will say Jeremy Stephens is going to climb right back up, guys.
Yeah.
He's not. I don't think he's lost a step. Even though he took this fight, I don't think he's lost a step. I think he's going to take another two or three fights and prove himself again. I do see Jeremy Stephens taking a title shot. He is in a different level. I think his coaches are going to go back and they're going to discuss this loss. He should have beat Jose Aldo. He backed up a little too early.
Yeah.
So kudos goes out to fucking Jeremy Stephens. And last but not least, guys, we have Eddie Alvarez versus Dustin Poirier. This fight lived up to his expectations. They both stanged and bang. Poirier got the best of it. Poirier proved that he could have beat him in the last fight. It was a bit of a controversial in this fight because Eddie Alvarez threw a 12-6 to his shoulder, and they took them off.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. They took him off him, and they put them both back on their feet. I wasn't happy with that call. I thought that was a bad call from the ref. If Dustin did not get hit in the head, it should have been fair game. And according to Eddie Alvarez said that he literally did that intentionally to the shoulder. That wasn't designed to hit his head, because he did it. If you look at it, if you rewind the fight,
no, the question is the question is not whether he hit his head, hit the shoulder.
It's how the ref saw it.
No.
Yes.
No. That you're not allowed. The 12-6 elbow is not allowed on the head or anywhere. It's just not allowed, period. So. And
by the way, guys, 12-6. 12-6 means, if you look at it from a clock perspective, you go up to 12, you come down to 6.
Right. So So the 12-6 elbow is just not legal in now I'm going to say MMA in the UFC regulations. With that being said, he threw it. Do they deserve to pull him out and say yes?
No.
Maybe, but
that's a good perspective.
How
Let me change my
hard
mind
it is
about
for
that.
Eddie Alvarez to get on top of Dustin Poirier? I agree that they should have warned him
And put them back down?
and left him right back in that position. Now, the referee could have said, listen, no, he did an illegal move, you're standing back up. But instead,
Was it Marliazza?
no, it's not Moriarty. But anyways, he said that the reason why he ended up sending him up because he had already warned them because Eddie Alvarez was grabbing the fence earlier into that fight. So, yes, I agree that he warned them on one thing, and this is a little different. I just don't believe that he got the better, he made a good call. I just don't believe he made the good call. I do believe that he should have pulled him out, but not bring him right back into that position, because to get a guy like Dustin Poirier in that position is extremely hard, and it's huge in the fight.
I agree. I will say this, a little bit of side note, fucking Poirier versus fucking Nate Diaz, bro. What a fight, son.
What a fucking fight. I agree.
This is gonna be a fucking brawl. I will tell you, Dustin Poirier has my full-blown respect after this fight.
Absolutely. Now the question is, should he take the jab from a lankier person? And that's what we're gonna see with Nate Diaz. But let's not go into that fight.
Damn.
That's happening in the future.
We just
You're
guys,
taking the
shots.
shot. You picked Eddie Alvarez, which is not a bad choice to pick, but I saw how Eddie Alvarez has been performing as of late, and I just felt like Dustin Poirier has the momentum coming off that crazy-ass win versus Showtime Pettis. Not only did he deserve this win, he's another guy. You could put that kid in a Wheaties box. You could easily promote this guy.
Yeah.
Giving him a fight like Nate Diaz is a fucking tremendous card to put down.
Great idea. Yo,
Great.
UFC, bro. Did you expect that? Did you expect that?
No, I did not see this.
That shit came left field for me too, bro.
100%. I think this would put Dustin Poirier in the map, because we're talking about a guy like Nate Diaz who has millions of followers on Instagram, and now you're gonna see if Nate Diaz loses this fight against a guy like Dustin Poirier, you're gonna expose millions of people to Dustin Poirier, bro.
And guys, with that being said, the amount of promotion that's gonna go behind McGregor, Khabib, Dustin versus fucking Nate Diaz, the amount of their own way of promoting this fight, this is gonna be a fucking telenovela, bro. So all these guys, I'm guaranteeing you, they're gonna put everything on the line to promote these fights. There's going to be a lot of controversial shit going on. I'm looking forward to it, which is phenomenal, because this is what the UFC needed. Right. And kudos to the fucking UFC. They put it and they did it correctly, man.
Well, so far it's been correctly. Hopefully nobody gets injured. But anyways.
Yeah.
Good way to close out the year. Hopefully they close out strong. And that's all for today.
Yeah, bro.
We're done, bro.
Let's
go. Take care of business. Don't forget to follow us on Will and Rock MMA Podcast on Twitter, on Instagram, and on YouTube.
Yo, shout out to everybody who's been following us too. We got a lot more likers. We got a bunch of more views. Good looking out, my people.
Alright, peace, guys. Shout out to the mechanic.